Kratos, the god of war, a man who has evolved from a monster full of hubris and rage, one who would tear down anyone in his path, innocent or otherwise, on his quest for vengeance against those who destroyed his previous life, to a husband made widower, and a father who doesn't know how to show love to his son, as his days of being a father have long since passed and been forgotten. He's not sure how to raise Atreus absent of Faye, who always seemed to be the guiding light for him in uncertain situations. Even in the briefest moments we get with Kratos and Faye, you see how the two worked together, were a team that brought the best out of each other, especially for Kratos. So as he struggles with his past demons, both literally and figuratively, following their journey to spread Faye's ashes at her request, Kratos is confronted with a prophecy that would spell the end of his time with Atreus, and now everything has changed. How do you change fate, or can you? During this journey of new self-discovery, growth, and lessons learned, Kratos battles new foes, gains new abilities, becomes stronger as the march through Fimbulwinter and into Ragnarok begins. But is Kratos the same all-powerful, unstoppable god of war he once was? Has perspective and insight given him mastery over his power like never before? Is Kratos more powerful than when he battled his father for the soul of Greece? Let's take a closer look. But before we get into it, I'd like to thank that guy named Kratos. He is a content creator here on YouTube who makes great God of War content. Please go check out his channel. Without him, this video would not be possible. He helped tremendously with piecing this together as well. So again, go check out his YouTube channel and his Discord. Both of those will be linked down in the description. And I'd also like to thank today's sponsor, Private Internet Access VPN. We've worked with PIA before, and we're back to remind you how important it is to have a VPN. Having your own easy-to-use virtual private network is incredibly important in today's ever-evolving online world. But I'm going to be honest with you, over the last few years of using a VPN, it's also saved me a ton of time and headaches with digital content. PIA gets rid of annoying geocaching associated with streaming providers who love to lock out their juiciest content behind puritanical restrictions like where you happen to live on the earth. PIA helps get rid of all that. It opens a world of content choices up to you so that you can spend more time enjoying your favorite shows and movies and less time Googling where you can stream Black Adam. Yeah, Black Adam, starring The Rock, a real man's man film. Anyway, for our subscribers using our personalized link, you can get an 82% discount on PIA VPN. That's just $2.11 a month and 3 months for free. So head to www.piavpn.com/keyissues or click the link in the description and get protected today. The ghost of Sparta, in his rampage across the Greek realm, battled countless enemies and the formidable gods upon Mount Olympus, but none could compare to the Sky Father, the king of the gods, the mighty Zeus, and the overthrower of the Titan Kronos. But before we discuss that battle, I'd like to turn back the hands of time to the dawn of creation.
In the time before the Titans, before the gods of Olympus, a great battle was waged. The wrath of the primordials. The very beings who forged the earth. Raged out of control for an eternity.
This primordial war, which raged endlessly, had an unintended result. The carnage spawned the universe, which the gods of Mount Olympus would eventually rule. More specifically, the heavens poured from the mighty primordial Uranus, the personification of the heavens and the father of the Titans. The heavens, universe, cosmos, and sky are all used interchangeably within the lore of God of War and are considered infinite in scale, making the creation of the heavens by Uranus a universal feat. Uranus survived the universe-spawning war and eventually sired the mighty Titans on the island of creation. Uranus would unknowingly become the progenitor of the cycle of revenge which plagued Greece for millennia. Not much is known of Uranus following the birth of his children. However, we do know he was eventually overthrown and slain by his son Kronos, the leader of the children of Uranus and Gaia, known as the Titans. It was foretold that Kronos would eventually be overthrown by his children as well, destined to suffer the same fate that he and his brethren forced upon their own father. Desperate to change this eventuality, Kronos would swallow each of his children, imprisoning them inside of him. After suffering 5 children to Kronos, his wife Rhea refused to let another become victim to their paranoid father, so she hid the 6th child with the mother of the Titans, Gaia, who would protect Zeus from his father's cruelty. And when Zeus came of age, he attacked Kronos to free his siblings and declared war on the Titans.
Bloodlust and power raged within Zeus. His desire to rule over mortals was intolerable to us. The war between the Titans and the Olympians forged the landscape of the mortal world. It was a war that we knew the Titans must win. The battle continued despite my capture. Then Zeus created a powerful weapon to end the Great War. A weapon forged from the heavens and the earth. The Blade of Olympus.
I banish you to the darkest pits of Tartarus!
After banishing the previous generation to the darkest depths of Tartarus with the Blade of Olympus, Zeus would rule as the head of the Greek pantheon of gods and cement his name for all time. However, this isn't a happy story with a satisfying ending for Zeus and the other gods. Zeus was a cruel god who bore innumerable children, many of them bastards, and one of which was Kratos. Having been wronged by the gods time and time again, Kratos' rage and fury would boil over in his quest to destroy his family who sat upon Mount Olympus. During his quest, he would not only battle and defeat Kronos, but his father, Zeus, as well. So if you've been paying attention, Uranus, the personification of the heavens, created the infinite universe during the Battle of Primordials. He was overthrown and slain by his son, the Titan Kronos, who was overthrown and imprisoned by his son, the god of lightning Zeus, who was eventually killed by his son, the ghost of Sparta, Kratos, who intended to get his revenge and finally end the vicious cycle which began eons before his birth, not to mention that Kratos also killed his grandfather, Kronos, in battle. To support this universal level of power even further, there are statements that the World Pillar held up not just the living world, but the infinite cosmos as well. After the destabilization of the World Pillar, Atlas was forced to bear the burden of the pillar, meaning Atlas was literally holding up the entire universe. However, this is even more impressive than at first glance. If the World Pillar were to fall, it would mean the end of all the gods, the living world, Olympus, the cosmos, the underworld, and all other dimensions contained there within, making it a feat far more impressive than just holding up the universe, as the majority of these realms are infinite in scale themselves. This is important to note, as Kratos defeated Kronos, who should exceed the power of Atlas, Kronos' younger brother, as Kronos was the leader of the Titans. And just to tie all of this together in a nice neat bow, we have statements from the creators of the series that the Titans and the gods do in fact scale directly to the universe creating primordials. So now that we've established the level of power Kratos is able to attain during his quest for vengeance, do we know if he retained all of that might after his foray into the Norse realm? How did the primordials create the universe when the legends of Midgard and Ymir contradict them? Are all of the events of the original series still canon, or were they somehow retconned by the 2 newest entries? The primary question most people have is each distinct pantheon simply overseeing and ruling over the small area of Earth that they reside in. So for instance, would Poseidon simply be ruling over the Mediterranean Sea instead of every ocean on the planet? When Zeus and the other gods fought during the Titanochemy, were they simply forming the area of the world known as Greece instead of the entire planet? Are Ymir and Uranus actually the same being? The list of questions goes on and on. Well, the first thing I'd like to address are retcons. Bruno Velasquez, the animation director of God of War, blatantly states that they are not retconning any previous material and directly answers one of the questions we posed earlier. Poseidon was the god of all the seas, not just the one surrounding Greece. But for more clarification on how these realms fit together on the same planet, each with unique creation myths that would seemingly contradict one another, let's hear from the director of God of War, Cory Barlog himself.
So is this a continuation of the Kratos we've already played as, or is this a new incarnation? Are you talking about that yet?
Continuation.
Okay.
So it is like the way I kind of see the mythologies is kind of like that Hubble telescope image of all of the galaxies.
The ultra deep field.
Yeah. So that image shows the universe with all of its individual galaxies. Each galaxy is kind of like a representation of a mythology, you know, and sort of wrap that around the Earth. And at any given moment, all of these mythological belief systems existed. You know, they all deal with a creation myth around their region. It's just separated by geography.
So each pantheon rules their own sort of pocket dimension on the planet, which contains their own laws of physics, magic, and universes contained within. So operating under this information tells us a few things. First of all, the world of God of War is not as straightforward as normal contemporary geographic borders, since each pantheon's area of influence would look like some sort of swirling light from above, which makes perfect sense because the past games wouldn't make sense if each individual pantheon's realms had the typical contemporary geopolitical borderlines that we think of today, or even from the past. For one, the Greek games presented their upper world as flat, with water literally falling off the edges, and the island of creation where the Fates reside was literally stated to be right on that edge, with the steeds of time used to pull on the island to keep it from falling off, which is, you know, good news for all flat earthers out there. If you can Ready Player One yourself into the God of War series, you can finally visit the edge of the earth. And it would also be pretty ridiculous to think that when Poseidon flooded the world after his untimely demise, it wouldn't account for any of the other pantheon's regions of the world. He would have just, you know, flooded Greece, and then there would just be standing water at the edges of every other pantheon's realm. Additionally, Mount Olympus is also said to be thousands of miles tall, both in universe and by those who created the series, but yet as huge as Mount Olympus was, it wasn't visible from anywhere in Greece. There's also the Desert of Lost Souls, which is stated to be far east of Athens, but a desert of that size does not exist in the real world and would not even fit on the same landmass as Athens. And to give an example of the desert size, Kronos, who is 500 meters tall, wandered that desert for a millennia and never once crawled out of it by happenstance. And the sand dunes there are so huge that they are as big, if not bigger, than he is. Then there is, of course, the outlandish concept of the underworld, which exists many miles beneath the living world, and yet has its own clouds, weather, and it even has its own star systems. And just as I said previously, Poseidon is still considered the god of all the oceans and seas, as they've always referred to him in the series. Basically, each pantheon's realm can be much, much bigger on the inside of its borders than its actual real-world regional boundaries would indicate. This is obviously reflected in the fact that the underworld is part of the Greek pantheon's world, and yet is confirmed to be infinite in size. So in summary, when you enter one of those points of light that represent a pantheon's domain, you are essentially stepping through a portal into another realm, into another Earth, even though all of these portals are contained on the same planet. So the chaos and mayhem unleashed in Greece did not end up destroying the entire world, merely the Greek world was laid to waste, as it is within its own pocket dimension. Following this, Kratos attempted to live a life of seclusion within the Northlands, or Norse realm, until he met a warrior called Faye, whom he battled against and eventually fell in love with. Years later, they had a son, Atreus. Faye spent the majority of Atreus' youth raising him, as Kratos spent most of his time away from home trying to learn to control his rage by letting beasts attack him as he merely defended himself. However, this time that he spent away from his family would become a regret for him, as he missed out on forging a real relationship with his son, as his wife carried the burden of raising a sickly child alone. Years would pass like this until Faye's death. As her final wish, she would request that Kratos and Atreus spread her ashes from the highest mountain in the realms, so the two went on a journey together to do so. During this time, Kratos met the goddess Freya, who tells him,
I know you're a god. Not of this realm, but there's no mistaking it.
Showing us the Greek realm and Norse realms are separated and not situated on Earth like you would typically think of it. To further support this, Mimir claims that Odin would, quote,
He'd control every realm of every land in every world if he could.
confirming that each pantheon has its own realm. Mimir himself is stated to be from another land. He was originally a forest sprite, likely from the Celtic myths, and implied to be Puck and or Robin Goodfellow himself. What makes the fact that Mimir is from another land so important is that he still regularly tells the history of cosmic creation for the Norse pantheon. The story of Surtur bringing heat to the young cosmos, for instance, which we will discuss in a bit. Even though he knows that other pantheons exist, and likewise he regularly calls Ragnarok the end of the whole bloody world. Even though, once again, he knows that other pantheons exist. This is just more proof that each pantheon is its own world within its own borders. Additionally, the God of War's social media promotions call the Norse realm a new one and its own universe. So now that we've established that the pantheons do indeed coexist and each creation myth can be true simultaneously, let's talk about how powerful Kratos is now. First, we need to talk about the power of the gods in this new realm. The Norse pantheon might not seem as impressive as the Greek gods at a first glance, however, this really isn't the case. Each of the 9 realms of the singular Norse realm are all their own unique universes with their own versions of Earth, space, and time. Each of these realms was filled with stars, galaxies, nebulae, etc. by the fire giant Surtur, which is told to us by Mimir, but confirmed by the lead writer of God of War as well.
Back when Ymir first emerged from Ginnungagap, it was Surt who followed next. He came from Muspelheim, the fire realm, bringing heat to the young cosmos, conjuring the sun from his primordial flame.
But even more impressive than that was Ymir, the first being, one of creation and chaos from which everything spawned, including the Aesir.
In the beginning, there was Ginnungagap, the great void. There were no realms yet, only primordial forces. There was fire and there was ice, and there in the void they met and produced
Water?
more than water. The mystic lifeblood of something entirely new. From this water, Ymir took form and became a being of pure creation and chaos, mother and father to all that came after.
Even the Aesir?
Aye. Every god, man, and beast came first from Ymir's flesh. Though it was the Aesir who thought themselves so superior that they should hold dominion over the rest of creation. It was Odin who took arms against his creator and spilled Ymir's lifeblood with his spear. A necessary evil, he would say, to bring order to the realms. From Ymir's torn flesh, Odin would fashion the realm of Midgard for his own. Called himself All-Father as if he was the creator and not the creator's destroyer. A small, covetous tyrant.
You can't forget Ymir, the first giant.
Odin carved him up to form the realms from his body and let the torrent of his blood nearly drown every giant alive.
So Odin killed Ymir, and then used the flesh of the progenitor to create Midgard, Asgard, Alfheim, Svartalfheim, as well as Vanaheim, and ruled over the realms as the Allfather. However, there was an unintended consequence. Ymir's blood poured from the wound and threatened to flood all of creation, and seeing as the previous lore that we've discussed has established that creation includes all 9 realms and their respective cosmos, the stars which came from Surtur, the flood of Ymir's death should naturally encapsulate all of that because it mentions all of creation. So we are still clearly in universal levels of power when discussing characters like Odin, Thor, and the current Kratos. But we still haven't answered the initial question, is Kratos stronger? Well, let's take a look at the evidence. After battling Thor for the first time, Kratos laments that Thor struck him with a hit that was as heavy as any he's ever endured, which would probably lead us to believe that Thor would be as strong as Zeus and Odin more powerful than Zeus. Thor's attack was as powerful as any Kratos had ever taken, therefore Thor must be as strong as Zeus, and since Kratos eventually easily defeated Thor, Kratos must have surpassed this level of power as well. So that should be the end of it, right? Well, not so fast. Let's discuss Kratos' power level at the time of his first battle with Thor when he makes this statement. First, this is after Fimbulwinter had already begun raging for quite some time. Baldur's death signified the beginning of Fimbulwinter, which at this point would have been going on for years. Fimbulwinter affects everything it touches. It weakened all of Atreus and Kratos' previously acquired upgrades and magical enhancements, and essentially took them all away. Second, as Freya states, Kratos' Greek magic likely dissipated after the destruction of the Greek realm.
Brother, I've been meaning to ask. Your homeland. I'd heard the gods there wielded every flavor of power you could imagine. Lightning, fire, the whole lot.
As did I, for many years.
Whoa. Any chance you could recall some of that magic?
No, I have tried.
Magic is bound to the earth. When your homeland died, your powers probably went with it.
However, the Blades of Chaos are exempt from this rule, as their magic is primordial and existed before any realm, which brings me to my third point. Kratos had to fight Thor without the Blades of Chaos, which retain their primordial power and amplify Kratos.
Was hoping to see your blades. Guess they don't come.
The Blades of Chaos make Kratos astronomically stronger. This is shown in the Fallen God comic when he's fighting the second Chaos Beast. Without the blades, he's nothing compared to the beast. His attacks simply bounce off of it, and whenever he gets hit by the beast, he gets knocked out. However, once he reobtains the Blades of Chaos, he is able to tank numerous attacks and then goes on to one-shot the mighty creature. Additionally, in the novelization of God of War, Brock exclaims that the blades are better than anything the Huldra brothers have ever seen, and definitely anything they've ever made. Hephaestus, who crafted all of the most powerful weapons for the Greek gods, considered the blades to be one of his weaker creations. So, one of the weakest weapons created by Hephaestus far exceeds the best the Huldra brothers ever made, meaning the weapons Kratos had to battle against during his time in Greece are much more powerful than either Mjolnir or the Leviathan axe. So when Kratos fights Thor for the first time, he's been weakened by Fimbulwinter, which Thor had not been as Asgard was protected. He has no access to the Greek magic, which empowered him in his previous journey, and without the Blades of Chaos, he'd be far weaker than with them, even accounting for Fimbulwinter. So Kratos was likely at his weakest he'd been in a long time, so claiming Thor's attack was heavier than he'd ever taken wouldn't be false. Kratos had taken more powerful attacks prior to this, however, he was much more powerful as well, so they would not feel as impactful as Thor's. In the second fight with Thor, Mjolnir and the Leviathan axe clash towards the end of the fight. Thor, while bloodlusted, strikes Kratos across the head with Mjolnir again, however Kratos no-sells the attack, showing us that with the Blades of Chaos, he's a completely different beast. While the Huldra brothers did make incremental improvements to the blades, their improvements based on their previous creations would never exceed the finest armaments of the Greek gods, so I don't think it's that notable. And here's another example of this statement not telling the entire truth. Let's take a look at what may actually be the heaviest attack Kratos had ever taken. The one from the fear-amped Zeus, who with a singular blast destroys all of Kratos' godly equipment, knocks him out, removes all of his magical amplifications, and then proceeds to snap Kratos' neck, killing him and breaking the health bar. Now, that is a design choice, but no other attack has ever done that to Kratos. So if we go with this logic, the weakest version of Kratos would one-shot his younger self with a single strike, which just seems a little bit absurd. Another important point is Kratos essentially tells us that he is weaker. The bedtime story he tells to Atreus about death at the end of Ragnarok helps prove this. Kratos is telling the story of himself. The old man referenced in the story represents Kratos, with the heavy logs representing his past mistakes, which continually haunt him each and every day. If you played the game, then you know that mistakes and regret carried along with them is a major theme throughout the story, but this is also a literal representation of Kratos' age and diminishing strength. Not just the mental fortitude it requires to not embrace death, but to live with the consequences of your actions and the regret caused by them. This is just further proof of the statement Kratos makes towards the tail end of the previous adventure when he tells Atreus,
"We should finish this journey while I still have strength."
Meaning he could feel his immense power waning. Now, the Greek gods don't operate like typical humans. Yes, they age and they get older, but they are immortal in the sense that they cannot die of old age. In fact, they become stronger the longer they live, and having a multitude of worshippers empowers them further. However, Kratos is not a god like Zeus, he's a demigod. Not to mention Kratos has no worshippers, or at least not many if you want to count those at the end of Ragnarok. This will likely change in the future, and Kratos could become even more powerful than he was at the height of his powers. However, I don't think Kratos is the same. I don't think that's the point of this new series. Kratos doesn't just handle the biggest and baddest threats by himself anymore. He's growing, learning, changing, becoming a better person, someone worth looking up to, and maybe someday, a god worthy of adoration. So those are my thoughts on Kratos' journey, how he's become more powerful and lost some of that power, which again, I do believe represents where Kratos is at in his current journey. What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments. Again, thank you so much to that guy named Kratos for all his help with this video. If you guys want to go over there, check out his channel. He's got great God of War content over there, and join his Discord if you want to talk all things God of War. Again, thanks for watching, everybody, and remember the motto, it's Kratos over everything, and I'll see you guys next time.